So I'm going to launch off into my message for the week, and that is going to begin with a quote from one of my teachers who I've referenced before, whose name is Tulku Thondup. I'll just read the quote, and then we'll move a little bit further into it. It's referring to training leads to awakening. The trainings on the path of virtuous deeds that generate peace, joy, and wisdom in our mind stream are the indispensable means of uncovering our own enlightened nature and qualities, the Buddha bodies. All the positive thoughts and pure activities such as learning, praying, and serving others, and especially meditation, will lead us directly or indirectly to the awakened state of our own nature and qualities. Tulku Thondup, there's Tulku. He became my teacher several years ago after the passing of another teacher whose name was Lama Gyatso. And I was really drawn to these gentlemen, particularly to Lama Gyatso, because of his gentle, wonderful, and wisdom-filled nature. He was a tremendous teacher in the Tibetan traditions, but was also very knowledgeable in other areas of philosophy and religion, and really did a great deal for me in terms of expanding my horizons. And when he passed away, there was a big gap in my training. So his wife, not Tulku, but Lama Gyatso, he had it was no longer celibate, and they, in order to create the next generation of teachers, often will take a wife or a concubine, whose name is Linnea. She had recommended Tulku Thondup, and you can tell by his picture he is just a joyous, wonderful man. Now, what is Tulku? Tulku is a title that's given to rebirths of high lamas. Tulku Thondup is a celebrated scholar and adept of the Dodrupchen Monastery, a famous learning institution of the Nyingma school of Tibetan Buddhism, and he's a visiting scholar at Harvard University. I connected with him because of his command of English and because of both of us sharing the academic field, myself at UCLA and he at Harvard. And he's just a very simple, personable guy, despite the fact that he has this amazing academic and religious background. So moving on to one of the teachings that Tulku gave. The reason that this jumped out at me was because of training. So what does that entail? What does that really mean? The first part of the quote says, the trainings on the path of virtuous deeds that generate peace, joy, and wisdom in our mind stream are the indispensable means of uncovering our own enlightened nature and qualities, the Buddha bodies. So training, that incorporates the use of all positive thoughts and pure activities. So the examples that Tulku gave are learning, praying, and serving others, and especially meditation. But let's think about training for a second. This can be really anything. And what does that mean? What is the definition of training? It's a process by which someone is taught the skills that are needed for an art, profession, or job. It is a process by which an athlete prepares for competition by exercising, practicing, etc. These are literal definitions that come from Webster. And then what is a process? A process is a natural phenomenon marked by gradual changes that lead toward a particular result. It is the process of growth. a continuing natural or biological activity or function, such as a life process or processes, such as breathing. So this process and this training, what does that mean? Well, that's everything that we do in our life practically. When I think about my own training, meditation, physical practice, physical training to keep myself healthy and in shape, qigong, martial arts, this is all a part of that process. That's something that we encourage all of our students here to participate in some form of training. And the way that we make this different is because of the mental process involved. It's not a mindless process, it's a mindful process. And that's something that we can bring to every activity that we participate in. So when you look at Tulku's teaching, the trainings, that's an optimal term. That infers that it's process-oriented. It's on the path of virtuous deeds. Well, we've talked about virtuous deeds. Bill was referring to that in his talk, that generate peace, joy, and wisdom in our mind stream. So it's the approach that we have to life. It's like Bill was talking about, when we accomplish activities that may be to our benefit because it helps us to earn a living, how do we approach that? Is it filled with that process of virtuous deeds? Or is that a mindless process where our sole intent is to just do better for ourselves, for the sake potentially of others as well? Or does it incorporate compassion? Does it incorporate the thought of benefiting others in that process? Well, if we follow Tulku's teaching, the virtuous deeds that generate peace, joy, and wisdom. So the goal of our process is to generate this peace, joy, and to uncover our true nature, the Buddha body. So these virtuous deeds, what are those? Well, they could be any number of things that generate these particular experiences, these ethical ideals. Does this specify a particular method of training? Well, if we again look at the example, Tulku uses the example of learning, praying, and serving others, and especially meditation. So what can we do? Well, there are examples all over. Look at our life. Art, music, science, dance, martial arts, worship and prayer, service to others, meditation. The idea is that we pick a path or multiple paths to which we're drawn. And that begins to be our own personal expression of these activities. And then if we infuse that with the proper mind state, the proper intention, then that's where we begin to derive these benefits. If we go back to the last time I talked, we talked about Jiddu Krishnamurti and his quote, "You must understand the whole of life, not just one little part of it. That's why you must read. That is why you must look at the skies. That is why you must sing and dance and write poems and suffer and understand. For all that is life." So then the goal is being led directly or indirectly to the awakened state of our own pure nature and qualities. How do we do that? We do that through virtuous deeds that produce peace, joy, and wisdom. How? We train over time. How? With the correct intention. So when we have this correct intention, that guides and informs any activity, whatever that may be. And then that becomes the Tao, the path. So all of these symbols incorporate the use of what we discuss every day. So the Tao symbol, the Enso, And this is our logo, which incorporates the use of Lao Mu in the center. So you follow the path to which you are drawn, whatever that may mean for you, and that may evolve and change as we pass through life. These are all parts of our individual journey and part of life journey. So this is why I'm so drawn to the Tao, because it incorporates the use, it's everything, because it's all part of the Tao. It's all one. One of my other teachers, who's a Chan Buddhist practitioner, he says that it's all oneness, all one, everything the same. It's just all part of that expression of unity. So I hope you guys have a great experience and wonderful opportunity to train this week and throughout this holiday season, because many times people say, oh, it's so wonderful, the holidays, because we have this intention, and people are kind to each other. One of my students, who's actually an agent for the IRS in their law enforcement division, said, it's nice that people are just kind of friendly, at least for a couple of weeks out of the year. Yeah, the rest of the time they're jerks. Well, I don't think that's necessarily the case. But if we inform ourselves with this intention throughout the year, it doesn't have to be limited to one time frame. Nor do I think that it necessarily is. But if we approach everything from that perspective of how can I possibly enrich the lives of others and elevate my own spirit, then boy, I think we would have a lot of success in the world. So I hope everybody has a great day, and it was really nice to speak with you for a few minutes.